past, the last time we presented at the board and we gave you a preview, one of the things that we said was we were hoping for parent and student input, and so that night we had a parent, Meredith Schindler, who actually came up later and said, I have this idea or that idea, so we're looking for people to join us, and so she actually joined our committee. So after our last preview meeting, we had a parent who joined us. And again, we're open to, if you get a taste of this today, we still have a lot of work that we need to get done, and so if you think that you'd like to join us, we would like more people to join us if that's possible. We're kind of small group, so we can do that. All right. So some of the next slides are going to look familiar because Naomi went into detail, but we wanted to let you know that as we do our work, these district vision outlines are part of the work that we do. We're always mindful of what the district has already set out to say they want to do. And so we're part of the high quality teachers and teaching pillar, but as we think about our work, it overlaps, and so there are facilitation committees that meet to make sure that as each of these design pillar committees are working, that we're talking with each other, and we're making sure that if there are things that are happening in our committee that we need to talk to another committee about, there's a system in place for that to happen. And the core values, we're mindful of the core values that came out of the summer work and gave us direction that Naomi already explained. So as we're thinking about our work, we're constantly thinking about these core values and the things that the district has said and the community has said are important for us. So the recommendation that we're going to make tonight is that the high quality teachers and teaching committee recommend that the Board of Education adopt a small learning community model with the first focus of implementation being at the secondary level. And so we want to define what small learning communities are. And so small learning communities emphasize small structure and curricular specialization, as well as focus on the learner and learning, and in particular, the active and collaborative nature of students and teachers' work. In a small learning community, interdisciplinary teams of teachers assume responsibility for student educational progress across years of school and maximize flexibility to act on the knowledge of students' needs. So there's a lot of research about what makes small learning communities work. And so originally people were thinking that it had to do with the size, but it's a lot more than size. If you create learning communities and they're just small in size, that's not going to be what leads to effective environments for students and for learning. You have to have these other components. It's really about how teachers work together, how students work together, and how teachers and students work together. It's the nature of that work that's really going to get to the place where we're going to be impacting student achievement in the ways that we want to impact student achievement. So I'm going to introduce Scott Easter, and he's going to talk about the guiding principles and how our work, the work that we've been doing in making this recommendation, relates to the guiding principles.
And I'm stepping out here because I'm playing the dongle right now. So the small learning communities, in your packet, the board package, you have a lot of information, a lot of research that we actually did that gets to how the small learning communities will actually support these guiding principles. And I'm just going to bullet a couple of them here. You actually don't need to change for a few minutes here. In terms of high expectations for all learners, small learning communities will support an increase of the quality and quantity of time that you have with students. It will support it by building strong social relationships, by developing and delivering rigorous, relevant curriculum, and by exercising maximum flexibility to act on knowledge of students' needs. And so those are very important ways in which small learning communities can help support the high expectations. In terms of evidence-based best practice, while allowing for innovation and creativity, it will allow us to be intentional about our teaching and learning, analyze and respond to data effectively and efficiently, collaborate to meet the demands of the Common Core state standards, which we all know are rolling out as we speak, even in science. I think it's due to come out here almost in the next few days. In terms of supporting family and community partnerships, it will allow opportunities for students and staff to develop and implement life-changing curricula. It will offer unique professional development opportunities and will give methods to engage students in education educational options beyond the scope of most comprehensive programs that exist currently. And in terms of it supporting student voice and empowerment, the data shows that it allows students to take ownership of their learning, to develop, test, and design their thinking, to take a leadership role in the classroom, to work in flexible, cooperative groups to solve meaningful problems. And we all know that that's one of the big 21st century goals that colleges are looking for right now. In terms of supporting responsibility, efficiency, and financial viability, it will promote shared decision-making, will respond to student needs, and will create an environment where stakeholders feel safe and empowered, and will also provide an atmosphere to establish the most appropriate setting that helps ensure student success and retention, and the data supports that. Now we can click. And I would like to introduce Natalie Turner, who's going to take on our creed.
So, in examining the research, 5 best practices kind of emerged for a successful SLC, and those 5 items were self-determination, identity, personalization, support for teaching, and functional accountability. So we're going to take those individually. Starting with self-determination, what that looks like is autonomy and decision-making, physical separateness, self-selection of teachers and students, and flexible scheduling. Those must all be present in an SLC, and members must be able to create and realize their own vision. Secondly, we have identity. SLCs profit from developing a distinctive program of study that originates in the vision, interests, and unique characteristics of their members. Personalization. Small learning community members know each other well. Teachers are able to identify and respond to students' particular strengths and needs. SLCs stress the importance of building relationships with all students. Fourth, support for teaching. SLC teachers assume authority as well as responsibility in educating their students. School leadership does not reside only in the administrative staff. Administrators teach and teachers lead. So there is a strong idea of empowering teachers and other staff to utilize their strengths. And lastly, functional accountability. SLC teams use performance assessment systems that require students to demonstrate their learning and the SLC to demonstrate its success. These assessments will be authentic and catered to each specific SLC. And I'll turn it back over to Scott.
One of the things that we know with comprehensive and a small learning communities is there are things that are almost non-negotiable, so to speak. And so there's a lot of work yet to be done on this slide from here on out, so it kind of gives you a picture of where we're going from here. But effective implementations of small learning communities include the 6 kind of key points that we have here: interdisciplinary teaching and learning teams, rigorous relevant curriculum and instruction, authentic assessment, inclusive programs and instructional practices, small learning community-based continuous programs of improvement, and building district-level support for small learning communities. So that work, I think that we're going to be pursuing here in the next couple of weeks, and there will be a proposal that is forthcoming from that work. And I will give it back to Debbie.
So this slide is a representation of some of the feedback that we got as we've been sharing with other committees and sharing in the community. There's a concern that if you develop these learning communities and you want the strong identification and they're working together, that what we don't want is to create a school district where we have all this separateness. We want something that's going to unite us. And so this slide kind of shows that one of the things that we're thinking is that even though the learning communities can be working kind of separately, that there'd be things that would pull us together. So co-curriculars, athletics, and then ways that we engage the students in having voice and how we engage them, and then the career and college credentials. But those would be areas that would overlap the